God bless you, the mental health pastor here, Fernando Kittrell, and this is day number 20 of the 30 days of Better is Possible. The 20th day, I can't believe we're already 20 days into the new year. You know, as we are still probably in setting goals, resolutions, whatever you do. I know I've talked to people, they've shared their goals and what they want to accomplish, what they want to achieve, et cetera, et cetera. But I have a list of things too that I want to talk about that will be beneficial for us in 2024, and not just 2024, but beyond. These are things that I believe that we could avoid doing in 2024. So I'm gonna read some things off. I trust that your ears are open and ready to receive. But I believe that many times we make resolutions or goals that we want to achieve. But if we be honest, a lot of those goals that we either hear or we make ourselves are things that we want to accomplish, tangible things. We want to, be go back to school. We want to get rich. We want to finish things, which are okay. But I believe we need to have goals that also challenge our character, that challenge how we act and interact with others interpersonally. And so there's some things that I want to just read off. So in 2024, we can be mindful of these things as well. So we can be successful. Again, better is possible, but we got to cooperate with the possibilities that are connected to better. And so these things I'm going to read are the possibilities that are connected to being better. Better is possible. And so these things here are connected to being better. So let's read them off. 2024, these are the things we are going to avoid. We're going to try our best. We're going to ask God to help us. But these are things I believe they will help us to be better. I've heard somebody say recently, be the change that you want to see. And I believe this list can be the change that we want to see. The change has to start somewhere. Sometimes we want to jump in and connect with a change that's happening. But sometimes God wants to use us as the catalyst of change. Sometimes we're the trendsetters. God has put it in your heart or my heart versus looking for who heart we can jump on and ride the wave. But sometimes we are the ones that God wants to use to create the change. And so these are things, 2024, we are going to avoid, and we're going to ask God to help us. We're going to avoid not praying. That's number one. We're going to avoid not praying. Many times we're so busy in life and then we don't pray. We don't talk to God. We don't communicate. We don't get instruction and wisdom through his word because we're not praying. So we're going to avoid having a prayerless life in 2024. We're going to avoid that. We're going to pray. So we're going to avoid not praying. Number two, we're going to avoid gossip. This is the thing that's tearing up people. Man, I can't even turn on the news or social media or just things that, I may be doing or listening to where everybody's just telling on everybody. Everybody's revealing secrets and telling things. So we're going to avoid this year gossiping, tearing people down, just like the old folks say, plain old gossip. Just finding delight in just spending hours talking about somebody else. I was watching a preacher or several preachers come on, and the whole time they just telling others business, just gossiping. Sometimes we think it's not gossip because we're sharing it openly, but it's gossip. When we're not in a place to pray, why gossip and criticize when we're not attempting to help? So gossip is what we're going to avoid. We're going to avoid being mean. So many people that are just mean and angry and upset. So being mean is something we want to avoid in 2024. Some people are just mean for no reason. They just mean people. And we want to avoid that. We want to avoid being rebellious this year, rebellious against God, rebellious against the laws of the land, rebellious against order, rebellious against accountability. You know, sometimes we're so rebellious that we're not teachable. We're not coachable. We're not instructable. No one can help us because we're just rebellious. We fight everything wholesome and we're just rebellious. So we want to avoid that this year. We want to avoid being rebellious. All right. So we want to avoid being a jerk. You know, I know some people that are just, they act like jerks. They just rude, obnoxious, not caring about others' feelings and just a jerk. You know, some people work at jobs where their boss is a jerk. In other words, they jerks are people that do things just to hurt others or just to be vindictive, and they got an opportunity to bless you, but they won't, and they act nasty or indifferent towards you. Just being a jerk. We want to avoid being a jerk. All right. We want to avoid being a bully. You know, there are some people who are just bullies, who are just spiritual bullies, who are just confrontational, want to bully people, want to be condescending to others, want to put people down, and they have bully personalities. And I know a bunch of people like that, and they call it, you know, what's funny, when people are bullies, they call it, well, I just tell it like it is. I'm just telling it like it is, and people get mad. But you notice you can't tell them like it is. But for some reason, they feel exalted to tell others off and call it, I'm just keeping it real or keeping it truthful, and people don't like it. That's a bully. Even the tone of that. Now, we're not talking about not speaking truth and not, you know, being stern at times. I'm talking about people that are bullied, that are overpowering and just want to just bring you under their control. That's a bully. We want to avoid being hateful this year. Just plain old hateful. Just hateful, mean. You know, we talked about being mean, but hateful, just indifferent, hate another race, hate somebody because they're tall, or hate somebody because they're short, hate somebody because they come from another, you know, just biased and hateful against everything. You know, I know people like that are just hateful and mean, and hateful people can, you know, they don't smile. They're just always angry, and something's always bothering them, just edgy and just hateful. We're going to avoid that. We're going to avoid undermining others. We're going to avoid trying to take advantage of other people. We want to avoid that. We want to avoid looking at someone that may have less than us and then treating them in an inferior way, in an inferior manner. We want to avoid that. We want to avoid undermining and double undercutting people because they may have something, or let me say it like this, undermining and also using people to get something you want, but you don't care about them. We want to avoid that this year. We want to avoid being prideful. You know, no one can instruct you. No one can encourage you. No one can tell you or offer suggestions or advice without you getting in. Or all of us, me included, I'm subject to this as well. So this is for all of us, being prideful. I hear people say, nobody can tell me nothing. Nobody can teach me. You know, I already got it. You know, always having to one up somebody. Somebody say what they're doing and you got to come up with even if people make up stuff, they make up stuff just to one up. That's pride, man. That's so much. We don't 2024, man. We want to be great. We want to do what God has called us to do. We want to be true and honest people. And so we want to avoid a prideful heart. We want to avoid being cold-hearted. You know, I know some unempathetic people that always, when there's people that are in pain, they're the first to say, man, just suck it up. Get over it. You don't know what I've been through. Just get over it. Like, we downplay people's hurt and pain. And you know what's funny? I remember I was listening to somebody recently and I corrected them. They judge other people for the same thing that they have overcome already. And sometimes when we are cold-hearted, it's because we forgot that we've overcome that. And so we're cold-hearted. We lack empathy and compassion. So we want to avoid that this year. We want to avoid being narrow-minded. No one can give you instruction for how to be better or greater vision or insight into what can help you to be better. Maybe, I talked to somebody recently. I say, hey, why don't you get a mentor? I don't need a mentor. Get somebody that could talk to you. No, I got it. They always have an answer, but then every year they're in the same exact spot. While others are advancing, narrow-minded people, or or any of us, if we're narrow-minded, we're usually going to stay in the same position in life because we're not willing to step out of the comfort zone, or we're not willing to extend ourselves to allow something to be better in our life. So we're going to avoid that this year, narrow-minded. We want to avoid being fearful this year. That's fearful and afraid to do anything. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear that you're not going to make it, fear that if you are successful, you're not going to be able to handle it. So why try? So all these being fearful of people, fearful of trying, fearful of putting the effort, fearful of just all this, just being fearful of everything. We want to avoid that this year. And then lastly, we want to avoid being lazy. Lazy. We want to avoid being lazy, just not trying. Something came to me recently. Sometimes we think we're sleeping a lot. But the thought came while I was thinking about somebody who every time I call, they always resting. So the thought came to me. I said, well, are they resting or hiding? Sometimes we call sleeping resting, but we're really hiding from life. And it creates sometimes a laziness, because after a while, at some point, you get stuck into just your life is just being slept away. And a lot of times it's just laziness. You got vision, you got a desire to do things. God has called you to something, but you're not willing to exert the effort to bring something to pass or work with God in some areas to help bless your life. So these are things that we want to avoid this year in 2024. If we're going to be successful and walk in victory and overcome things in our life, this is a list of things. Now, of course, there are more. I just kind of said here earlier, just wanted to just bring out what came to mind and what made sense, that the things to avoid. And so, all right, day number 20. We're pushing towards the end. Man, I can't believe 20 days is already here in the new year. So 2024, here we come. Better is possible, baby.